Thank you. Very welcome to the fourth edition of Caring is Cool. I'm very excited to have the panelists with me, Maryam Safe, Ingrid LaFleur, and Karen Adams, and you will learn about their backgrounds a little bit. I will give a short introduction into what their background is about, and I will also present one of their projects or two very shortly. And then, of course, we have the chance to talk together about the impact of arts in society. We are in this series especially covering artivist areas such as music, storytelling, poetry, and performance arts, as well as theater, movies, games, that may have an impact on awareness building about climate change topics or social inequality awareness. And we also invite people working in different new media types or independent media or operating channels to create impact networks. In this meeting, it's less about giving long presentations about a single project, but really giving all the participants the chance to meet each other also in breakout rooms and to have a long or hopefully an inspiring question and answer session. So each of you will have the chance to ask questions after the talks. After this welcome, there will be the introduction by the panelists, then the discussions with the members of today's session, as well as the breakout rooms that I just mentioned, where we hope that you identify synergies and are able to network with each other. And I think in the past editions, this has been quite successful. I've heard about several projects that were kicked off in the meantime in different domains of activity, and that was very nice to see. So our very first event started with the panelists, independent media represented by Betsy Rosenberg. We had Dale Byron speaking about the power of poetry, and Rita Cruz to talk about the power of live performance. In the next edition, our guests were Barbara Williams, also speaking about the power of poetry, an advocate of degrowth ideas. And Rexley Buniyard was presenting her experience in musicals for impact, and Michelle about several projects that she has been engaging in that involve collaboration among artists or collaborations to protect gardens or to collaborate for a green, safe future. In the last month, in the June edition, we had representing the power of music, Richard Ihuel, who has been presenting his projects Frogs and Friends. Jeff Nwanzi with his project Dinos Unite, an impact musical, and that is not only a musical but also involves micro-engagement activities such as flash dances and co-creation workshops. And then we witnessed a very inspiring presentation and discussion with Felicia Young about the power of performative arts, where she showed her project Earth Celebrations. These meetings have been, typically through Zoom, and we had lively discussions, and we had participants that would be recurring to coming back to these meetings, sharing their views, or finding new contexts and synergies. And I think that has been very successful. Today, I'm very glad to have three inspiring women here represented, that we have the chance to get to know their projects and their ideas in the context of art and impact, in the context of media and impact of storytelling and individual stories. And how we can use these to think about a future. And I found this word futurology or Afrofuturology that Ingrid LaFleur is presenting very inspiring, and I'm curious to hear more about the definition and the approach. So I will shortly present each of them and then give the word to the panelists. Maryam Safe works in the area of arts. She is an expert in modern and contemporary arts, and also I think more recently is interested in holistic systems thinking. And Karen Adams I will present in the frame of her Circularists series, which is a new video series that is speaking about the power of storytelling and the power of sharing individual stories, especially those of people that approach the challenge of making an impact in interviews. And then last but not least, Ingrid LaFleur and the power of arts and futurology. Maryam Safe, I mostly know her through the LinkedIn profile, which presents her as a modern and contemporary art specialist, and she has been working in this area since a long time, since 2010, but more recently she has been working also in the holistic systems approach, in organizing events that also aim at, I think, synergy building. So I'm curious what we can also learn from you about these events and how to bring people together. And and then I would like to present Karen Adams. She has so many different roles, so I will only focus on the Circularist project, but as you can see also in her presentation, she is an entrepreneur, a climate content creator, and then besides the Circularist interview series, she works in different areas, from system change advocate to a founder, tech startup, an entrepreneur, and a fashion designer clothing. So I'm curious to hear how you ended up with this, I think, quite inspiring idea of the Circularists, and how these other experiences shaped the way into this direction, and how this helps you maybe also interviewing all these inspiring impact people that work towards social or environmental impact. Last but not least, I would like to present Ingrid LaFleur. The pictures that we can see of her created by her or using all different available tools are simply inspiring, and you can see that she works as an artist. She is an artist by training, but when you look about what she is known for, you will clearly see that she is a person very visible in the public. She is invited as a speaker at many roundtable events, but also has been active in politics and has been running, I think, for the role of mayor in Detroit. And more recently, she is working as a fellow to work on some art-related projects. But importantly, I wanted to highlight this project of the Afro Future Strategies, which I found really inspiring. And on the top, you see an image that relates to some of the very recent work. And we are curious to learn more about all of you. So I will stop sharing the screen and we can directly dive into discussing your views about the impact of arts in society. I think this is what is the main topic of the series, and I would like to start with Maryam and would like you to share some experience of your optimism or pessimism. You have been working in the area of arts for a very long time. How much do you think can art inspire people for change, or how much awareness building is really transported through arts?
Thank you, Jana, for this beautiful and generous introduction, and very nice to meet you all here. I studied art history in London, and then in 2017, with my partner, we studied anthropology, and this is an important part of our journey. He's an architect, and we thought that our education of art, it still needed something that was missing in his architecture studies and my art studies. We needed the presence of people and exactly what you say, the power of art in the society. So we studied anthropology, and we were lucky enough to get to know some amazing professors who have dedicated their lives and mother-centric societies or matriarchal societies, who think totally differently from what we knew up until then, at least in our upbringing. And that was to think of our being together and our connection with each other through a different way of there was no hierarchy. It was everyone was not only equal, but they were connected and they were cared for. And this element of care was when it came to our journey. And then, of course, systems thinking was another element that was added to it. And then I was very lucky to receive a scholarship from Building Beauty, a school of Christopher Alexander. And it's a school of design, but they design according to care and the care that is in a neighborhood, the centers that all are defined by each other. So instead of looking at everything as a separate entity, especially Christopher Alexander, really helped me and my partner to understand how connected we are. And of course, the indigenous thought also helped us a lot in this journey. And also we work with a school that is, it's not a school, it's an educational revolution. It's called Prailer, Planet Repairs Action Learning Educational Revolution. And they work with, we are a part of outreach, and we put them together with artists and also scholars to and also we invite universities to open up to indigenous cultures and our new way of understanding our humanity and our connection with each other, our connection with the land, and with our understanding the sacredness of this life that we are a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So this is our practice.
Thank you. I would like to put the same question to Ingrid, maybe, because she works more in the art, and then to Karen.
Hello, everyone. I'm speaking from Johannesburg, South Africa. I am not an artist. Actually, I did not study art. I studied art history. I actually just use art as inspiration for thinking about the future, very specifically artwork that's produced within the Afrofuture context. I believe the cultural movement of Afrofuturism is one of many portals for liberation, not just for Black-bodied people, but for everyone, because it helps to create a healthy relationship with Black bodies. And unfortunately, in our world, we're very anti-Black in not just in our sentiments, but also in our systems. Hence the reason why I do futures work. I am currently at the University of Houston studying foresight, so that I can pull these methodologies together with Afrofuturism. And that is the work that I focus on in terms of working with communities and individuals and organizations to show how Afrofuture thought and practice can be integrated into their work. And I think this is a really exciting way to create decolonial futures. And as Maryam talked about, relationship with the land, indigenous thought around the world, and wisdom, and how that can help us to map our futures. But I'm really, in my methodology, the Dinkanesh method, I really focus on making sure that we are coming from that kind of decolonial space. So I think that we might assume that we might come from a good place, but oftentimes we don't really check the limitations that are within our minds. And so my method likes to address that first before we start imagining the futures. I think it's a harmful act actually to skip that step, because what we're seeing are people recreating capitalist systems of harm, other systems that are just going to further exacerbate the climate issues. So we really need to make sure that we are breaking apart from those systems. And so that's what my work really centers on at the moment. And it did start with me running for mayor of Detroit to look at Afrofuturism and politics. And then I started working in blockchain technology and cryptocurrency to look at alternative economic systems. And then it just kind of like grew from there. But I believe that the arts, the creative space is more necessary than ever before, especially as a lot of this emerging tech and science is forced upon us. It is the critical thinking paired with that kind of deep experimentation with a justice-oriented perspective that is necessary for us as humans as we evolve into this future era that we've never seen before and never come in contact with. But I think Afrofuturism is one of many pathways to make sure that everyone is included and seen and heard, and pleasure and joy is also present.
Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm sorry if I presented this wrongly with the artist. I just saw so many beautiful artworks, and I thought you had some expositions as well in New York.
I do.
Yeah.
I make
Yeah.
sound work, but I do that work. And the work that I make with Midjourney, I do not sell.
Yeah.
And that's intentional. This is just purely to advertise some of the projects that I'm working on. And I think they're colorful and they're eye-catching. But it's important for me to say that, because I know that Midjourney is pulling images from other artists. So I do not make any money from that. And so that is not my artwork. That is just advertising.
Okay. So you use the power of art, using the tools to actually, yeah, to trigger the discussion and to trigger the conversation and the awareness. And that is very inspiring, of course. And we do this too. The background of this Caring is Cool is also done with some AI tools. And I hope, and I think actually, yeah, so many people say like, oh, the backgrounds are so beautiful and it makes everything look, yeah, I don't know. It's a tool really, but it's definitely worth mentioning. Yeah, a lot of the artist work went into these algorithms being able to produce this inspiring artworks, and yeah, they should be mentioned, and they don't work under the best conditions always. Then I would like to ask Karen about, yeah, your view on, yeah, the power of art and how that may relate to your projects.
So, where do I begin with this? I think in terms of our creativity rather than art as a label. So we have a creative propensity. In terms of introducing myself, I'll go back to my childhood. So at the age of 14, when the careers advisor came to our school and outlined several different career paths that were possible, she talks about a systems analyst. And as soon as I heard it described, I said, that's what I want to do. That's how my brain works, and that's for me. But it wasn't for another 30 years. It took another 30 years for me to get on, switch into that. But if we go back even further into my childhood, I made my first garment. I designed and made my first garment at the age of 7. So I made a halter neck. It was green cotton. And I grew up with a black Singer sewing machine in my house. My mum made clothes, and I saw 2D turn into 3D garments and was fascinated. And I think my love of fashion design began there. And then around that same time, I began learning a musical instrument, which has stayed with me throughout my life. So I started on the violin, I play the cello. It's a deep love of mine. So I'm a divergent thinker. I'm many things, and I struggled with this for most of my life because I couldn't neatly describe myself as one thing. I'm not a lawyer or a doctor or a social worker. I'm a plethora of different passions and endeavors, and most of them are, not all of them, they're either creative or analytical in nature. So I've always struggled and carried a bit of embarrassment about not being able to describe myself as one thing. But I reconciled that a few years ago and pulled all of the strands of me together. So the tech entrepreneur, the fashion designer, the cellist, all of it, it's all me, and I'm creative. And so out of that piece that I found, and looking at the climate crisis that we face, I'm convinced that creativity is our superpower, because I think many of us are polymath in nature. I like to think of this period that we're living in as the Renaissance 2.0. I think back to the 14th century in Italy, where you had this boundaryless atmosphere of creativity, a creative explosion of artists and blacksmiths and carpenters and painters all meeting in the square and coming up with new stuff. And I feel convinced that this is what we need to unleash now, to outthink the crisis that we're in and to move beyond it with innovation. So I'm an advocate of unleashing our creativity. And so one of my passions is to build a circular fashion system, an alternative to the linear one that we have that's highly destructive. So I guess that the hunger is for the systems analyst in me to get to work and build that. But in my frustration of not having the resources or the funds or being ready right now, I thought, well, what can I do right now? What do I have? And so I thought, well, my voice is one of my powers. It's all of our powers. If we speak, mountains can move by word no, or I'm not getting out of my seat, I'm not getting off this bus. The world can change on a sentence. And so I decided that I would just start interviewing people and talking to them. So that was where the Circularist was born, just a few weeks back. And what I've happened upon is this real hunger for people to be heard, for their endeavors to be heard, and for people to listen. So I'm excited about that, and I'll return to the systems thing a little further along the line. But for now, I'm bringing all of me to this endeavor.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that is very exciting, and I hope, that also in this Caring is Cool, we have the same feeling. I think that people like to share, and sometimes maybe it's in the breakout rooms in a smaller group of people that you start brainstorming of what you can do together, and people are actually eager to share and get to know each other. We are now people often meeting here from so many different places across the globe, and each of you does inspiring things and inspiring work. And sometimes it's hard to find locally the same community or the same exchange on this level of being committed to creating impact that I think this online format has been for us at least a very, very interesting tool to meet you. And it's every time exciting. Every one of you brings one or two more people into the virtual room that can also and is really invited to contribute to the flow or exchange of flow of ideas. And one thing you said that you had difficulties to describe yourself like in one box with one label. I think we can all relate to that. Of course, sometimes it's nice in society to mention the work you are in, that you have been working hard for, and then you would say, okay, I am that. But so often it is not matching what you feel or what you are, and you have so many more labels, but it's somehow we are trained into that a little bit, I have the impression. But yeah, I found this idea very, very interesting. I can relate to that. And I also saw in the comments that people were applauding on what you said, that was very well said. And I think I would ask Maryam if on this thought of, I think you can relate to that as well, having changed your educational path or the way of work, and probably working in so many activities. So maybe if you could comment on that, and then maybe also mention like the main activity you are fascinated about right now that you would like to share, where you say, okay, I'm maybe not that professionally originally formed, but this is what I really want to do now, just because I feel like a call or so.
Yeah, I very much agree with you and Karen and everyone. Exactly, because I had this urge to look for something deeper. And in the end, I think it's the community and coming together of not only with fellow humans, but also with other species, other living beings, and those who we at the moment not define as living. So in the systems thinking part and the activism, we got to meet a beautiful community in Ghana. And because I did this design course with the School of Christopher Alexander, whose very famous quote is, making wholeness heals the maker. And community is a very important part of whatever, not he, but the community of makers do together, is really important for the people who in the Alexandrian thought. So these friends of ours in Avatime, they invited us to make their village more holistic. So this is a project that my partner and I are going to be involved next year. We are applying for funding, and because a lot of youth are leaving their villages, or the ones who are staying, they do not adhere to the traditional principles of the sacredness of life, and they apply new ways of farming that are advertised by companies like Monsanto and Syngenta, and it's not necessarily good for the living systems. So the chief and the elders, they would like to make an example of this village, to reorganize and build according to the natural material and the local materials, and also be the village being rebuilt by the community of the people who are there. So I think a little bit of design and art and all of that is in it, and yeah, we're excited about that.
interesting. Thank you. And yeah, I would like to ask Ingrid the same question. The change of roles and the project you are excited about starting now, or where you find maybe your call for impact.
There's a couple things happening. I just moved to Johannesburg, which means that I will be basing my business, the Afrofuture Strategies Institute, here. And so I'm in the process of getting that together, and it's consuming my entire life. But it's a joy. And the reason is because the reason I'm here, one, I've been traveling to Johannesburg for over 15 years, but I absolutely love it. But I absolutely believe Africa is the future, and I want to be on the ground here to learn and to reconnect, reclaim for myself in my own lineage some of the wisdom that is here on the continent, and to just really understand how they're working with different emerging technologies. So I very much am following how blockchain technology and cryptocurrency is used here to help leapfrog certain communities. And so that has been a focus of mine. And I have started a workshop series and conjuring futures using the Dinkinesh method that I've created, and they will be online. And I'm really excited about making it more accessible to people. It's a journey. You kind of, you're placed within an Afrofuture narrative, and within that space, you come up with your own myth about yourself. And you also learn about different systems so that we can reimagine them. We also acknowledge and honor the magic in our lives, the spiritual technologies, whether in our families, our communities, our cultures, that are usually pushed aside. We like to center that and see how that can be integrated into the futures we imagine. And then I also, the last part of the journey is to dive deeper into emerging tech and science, so that even if, for instance, in one of my workshops, a 20-year-old was completely analog and just completely, an artist and not wanting to deal with any of this tech. But after the workshop, she learned that even though she doesn't want to engage it, it is affecting our lives. And it is something that she has to definitely keep abreast with. And that's why I do the work, so that everyone understands what is being planned for us in the future, and how we can maybe negotiate, how that impacts our communities and in real concrete ways. And so those are like the two things that I'm really excited about. I'm also excited about bringing together my resource list and finally sharing all of the Afrofuture material I've been gathering, and also to really just kind of like connect these amazing thinkers and artists with the wider public. And I think that that's one of the disconnects, is that within art sphere, intellectual sphere, sometimes it doesn't get into the wider public to do the work that we really want it to do. And so this is me as my curatorial hat, trying to bring those two things together.
Thank you. How much do you think these public speaking events like this Republica event or others may have helped, maybe, getting these thoughts into a wider public?
Respectfully, it probably is still very smaller community. Would be interested in these kinds of talks.
Yeah.
For instance, my ex-boyfriend is a former Marine and worked on an Air Force base. He knows nothing about anything that we're talking about right now. And so trying, I'm thinking about really like an average person in this world who, you know, is open to hearing different ideas, but they're not connected to the arts community. They're not connected to an academic community. So they're not going to get the information because these communities, for whatever reason, it doesn't filter out into the wider public. And so it becomes insular, and also we become a little jaded in the topics that we speak about because we're talking to each other and we think, oh, we've already talked about that, when a whole host of people have never even heard of it. They have no clue about anything that we're talking about. And so that's dangerous actually for our futures. We need to get the information out. It does not need to be complicated. All the language jargon needs to go away. It just needs to be clean, clear, direct, and people so that they can consume it, even entertaining. I mean, this is why social media, right? So, and, you know, all of those elements have to come into play when we're dealing with a larger public outside of, you know, our more insular communities.
Thank you. Karen, would you like to, comment on these topics?
Yes. What exactly what exactly am I answering? Sorry, my mind's all over the place. Hone me in, please.
Yeah, I also think actually you were the one triggering the question, like of like, how do we define ourselves? Where can we make action? And you just started with the secularist like a few weeks ago. But if there was not the secularist, I don't know, like, for you mentioned the long-term vision is the circularity in the fashion system is one of the important things to very concretely work on and impact. How does this relate to this awareness, indigenous learning, community building, and is this a pre-work that you directly relate to this end? This let's say long-term goal, that through the interviews of the secularists, everyone becomes more aware of like how important it is to the topics we talk about.
So the secularist isn't a direct funnel to anything, any project, any output, really. It's on the same map, but it's not a funnel. I'm not thinking in those terms. So the secularist it started as a kind of passion project because what I guess having launched a sustainable clothing brand and having seen the widespread ignorance of what different fibers are, what they're made of, where they end up, how long they take to biodegrade. It's almost a secret, the atrocities of the fashion industry. You know, it's a secret that 70% of our clothes are made of polyester. It's a secret that 70 million barrels of oil are going towards producing these clothes. It's a secret that they take 200 to 500 years to biodegrade. And even then, as they lie in landfill, they slow release methane gas, which is the fastest warming greenhouse gas. It's a horror show and nobody knows about it. You know, if I step outside of my bubble and I talk to, you know, my family or friends or people in the office, nobody has a clue. So I launched the Circularists because I launched the sustainable clothing brand thinking everyone will be so relieved that I've done this and they'll switch, but nobody cares and nobody knows. And so I thought, well, let's park that and let's keep my long-term vision of building a circular fashion manufacturing system. But right now, it's all about awareness. I think this has to be the starting point. People's eyes and ears need to be open to the danger because they don't know. So the Circularist was really giving all of, you know, you climate heroes a voice to just talk about what you're doing in very accessible terms so that people can just say, oh, okay, I didn't know, and draw nearer. And that's really it.
I would like to open the round of question to everyone, and yeah, I'm curious to hear your questions to our panelists. Yeah, please just raise your hand if you have one, or if you would like to share a thought that is inspired by the discussion and the topics that we were touching upon.
Yeah, I have if you're okay, I have a reflection and maybe also questions. By the way, my name is Sinet. I'm from Nature Plus, and we are working on basically put a live externality value certificate in the where you're buying a regenerative product, so you engage the customer in that process, and they can follow the development of the farmer and stuff like that. But I'm really getting inspired here in so many levels, because we also have an initial idea of having local artists and so on. But really create the awareness in the point of shopping, in the decision-making process of shopping clothes or shopping food and stuff like that, and keep that awareness in a longer period in engagement, and using art and storytelling as a powerful tool in that. So you're really doing, you can say, the training mind shift in a playful way, but as part of the consumer thinking we have today, but you basically mind tricking it into another way of thinking in so many levels. And I think actually it's just an idea I just got to. And how do you see how can art and storytelling, awareness building, and music, which is also so powerful in that, really speed up the good action which is done out there. A lot of people is doing really good thing, like brand clothes, sustainable clothes branding, and food, regenerative food, and so on. How can we really speed that process up, so the other economic models, of business models is being obsolete? That is basically how can we use. How do you see that?
Would someone of the panelists like to reply to this question?
I don't mind jumping in there. So there's two things that jumped out, that brands, messaging and storytelling, and consumerism and behavior change. These are the big things, I think, that need addressing as we move to another way of living, another way of meeting our needs. People will need to buy things in the future. We can't halt 100%. So behavior change and product change has got to be part of the equation. And I think storytelling and creative ways of reaching hearts and minds is essential for getting in there. Slick marketing, I think, is dead now with the mission we're facing. That's just the wrong thing. Song and poetry and art and all the sensory things that get to the heart of people are great vehicles for kind of shooting those messages into injecting those messages into people. So I think this is very important, this forum here, where we're talking about the power of art and creativity to drive those messages home. I mean, I think that's the way we're going to do it, personally. I'm sure I'm not alone because we're all creative.
Thank you. If if Ingrid or Maryam would like to comment on this. Otherwise, I would like ask Barbara to ask her question. She just mentioned she wanted to raise her hand.
Yes, I've got I've got a new laptop, I think. So for some reason it's not. Anyway, yes, very, very impressed with all of you and your powerful imagination and Karen's response there. I will she's absolutely right. Advertising is, as it is at the moment, is one of the most damaging aspects of our modern culture, because that's what is driving coercive consumerism and persuading people to buy things that they don't need, and totally blurring the picture about what is of value to us and what isn't, because obviously our ecosystems are collapsing at the moment, and anything that accelerates that process is not a wise thing to buy. So things like package holidays, I'm afraid, we really shouldn't be advertising them, and we certainly shouldn't be going on them. And then the whole of our leisure industry, that any bit of it that involves travel, I mean, that is burning fossil fuels for fun. That's where we are. This is how crazy our world is at the moment. And obviously, is a scary, terrifying situation that we've got ourselves into, and to just dissolve into panic and fear is not helpful either. So that is why everything that you folks are doing is so valuable. My work is, I'm afraid, I'm the nasty witch. I play the wicked witch, because I come in and I'm working with the intellectuals and the academics who still haven't admitted that growing gross domestic products is part of the problem. So I've got a scientific paper which has been under peer review for over a month, probably because it's hugely contentious, because I'm trying to inspire a global aspiration to shrink the global GDP to about a quarter of the level that it is at the moment. And that's what we need to achieve sustainability, because that is how far gone we are in ecological overshoot. The data's been for years. So anyway, thank you very much, everybody, and thank you for giving me a chance to chat.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, is there anyone else that would like to place a question now? Otherwise, I would start preparing the breakout rooms and, yeah, bring you into smaller discussion rounds. Okay. So for the breakout rooms, typically we distribute them by panelists, and we add a few people, and you have the chance to, in the smaller group, to discuss your projects, possibly synergies, or just clear any doubts that you might have about the approach of the panelists. And then we reconvene after 5 to 10 minutes here in the large stage, and ideally the panelist shortly describes what has happened in the breakout room, where there are new thoughts that appeared, and that would be just a very short moment to reflect upon what this discussion brought. Sinead and Maryam, I know you shared a little bit what your project is about too, right, Sinead? I was wondering if there are any synergies, what came to your mind?
Yeah, I wanted to ask you if you could explain a little bit more about what you do and with your project. It sounds fascinating.
Yep. Basically, what we're doing is we have done a financial impact ecosystem. So we are trying to build up a self-reinforcing ecosystem where every stakeholder have a win, also nature. And the goal is to co-create abundance between people and nature. So really building business model and ecosystem who support that. And a way of doing it is to, if you, for example, your community, you can really show the synergies with nature. We do environmental assessments, measurements, life cycle assessment using environmental data, social data, biodiversity data, and put it on, and is giving people who's, we can say, buying the product or want to be part of the community storytelling, a unique, you can say, certificate where they can follow the development in real time, can follow the pollinator flying by, and stuff like that. So we are trying to engage customer in the real change that people are making. And in that sense also to create revenue back to the farmers or the people who's doing the difference. Actually also before they have done it. So we are starting to make a baseline and then really invite people in to follow the process. And then also have art as a part of it. On original, I was just thinking, painting and stuff like that. But I kind of got inspired today to say, how can we build up the whole art story behind it, and really also get the local artists and communities and music behind it, so it get a total involvement of it. So, for example, I'm working with some Danish fruit producers, working with making a food forest where people can do make the self-pluck, what is called self-harvest. Yeah. Self-harvest and follow it and being part of develop it from monoculture to much more diverse food forest. So things like that. So we're trying to build that ecosystem up. And also, as a global setup also, so we want to work with communities all over and see how we can build that up. So actually working with Australia.
Are you already working locally or it's now just certain local place and you're looking forward to
I'm from Denmark, so of course we're having a Danish kind of a startup, but I'm also chatting with Australia. One guy wants to make a food village. I'm chatting with people from Sierra Leone and Kenya, trying to build it up as well. So we're trying to make local drivers, but then we support it with the thinking of the environmental science behind the measurements and put it on you can say a marketplace where you invite the customer in and the revenue streams in.
And is it a certain type of farming, for example, regenerative farming, or it's any kind? And
no, it is food systems where you build up resilient ecosystem. So it could be, holistic grazing, of course. It's regenerative farm in Denmark is microorganisms we put on the manure, rebuild humus, and then avoid pesticides, stuff like that. It could also be like your project, for example, with community driven, where the elders want to make a point, and then we make it very attractive for the young people to follow. And so they really can see the difference also for the nutrients and health and for the different animals. Because the main problem we have is actually it's not a climate crisis, it's an ecosystem crisis. So our ecosystem's feedback mechanism is really getting damaged. So that is our biggest problem.
And a mindset crisis.
It is. Yeah, but we really want to co-create abundance between nature and the solution. The goal sets the solutions. So this is one thing. We don't work with reduction mindset. We really work with the co-creation of abundance.
Sinead, can I put you in contact with some of my friends?
Yeah, sure, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Fantastic. I have to think about the project. It was starting as a universal basic income project, and they basically started to have a blockchain currency where in exchange of established currencies, a group of friends, and then maybe it has been growing to circles of communities, are using this currency in exchange of goods, either agricultural goods, but also in exchange of services, repairing something, or yeah, it started very small, but I think this platform works very well and has been found also used in other contexts, and maybe that is useful for an exchange in this context as well. I will post this to your, it's called Circles. It started in Berlin, and I can share this website also with
Is it a time bank? There was also a time bank system that started about 2010, I think, also here in New York, in England and New York, I think it was, and Amsterdam. It was also the same thing that people would, it was a time bank. So the time that you would share your skills. So you would spend 1 hour cutting someone's hair, and then someone would come and help with you or your electricity problems. And it was a very, very successful project. Also, grassroots economics. I don't know if you know about them. Will Goodrick is doing an amazing work in Ghana as well.
Yeah, and I think the problem with, you can say, crypto, we also have a guy who wants to do cryptocurrency. The problem with that, in getting it too early into economics ecosystem as ours, is that they want revenue back too fast, so that makes it more greedy in the ecosystem. So when we are thinking about introducing token, but I want to make it so it's just a help, like you can pay with it if you have problems, with the natural economics and so on, but it should not be the driving force for revenue coming back to people who had invested it early. So depends on how you use things like that. But I like the idea what we are trying to do by putting this unique certificate on, for example, a liter of ice cream or some beef or whatever. It is that that can actually be the currency.
That's amazing. Do you have a website that we could read more about your project?
I mean, we have a natureplus.io, but we are kind of evolve our company a little bit further from that. So, but I do have some.
It would be great if you can share the website on the general chat. I think people were curious about your project as well.
It's fascinating.
But we are doing what do we call insetting, really trying to work with the value chain and really trying to see if we can get revenue back to the one who's really doing a difference. And I'm also working with the Genie Hub, and he's working also with some guys who's trying to reinvent, some economic guys trying to reinvent the economic system, also with some guys from Africa and stuff. So there's a lot of people around who's thinking the same thoughts. So I think it's about connecting and trying to develop it.
It took us too long to realize this system is not working.
But I've been in the environmental business field for 25 years. I knew for 25 years ago. But it's our time now.
Yeah.
I will switch rooms, as I mentioned. I wanted to switch rooms, but if Canine can be involved in the conversation, that would be awesome. If you are back? If not, I will jump just shortly, and shortly also probably make the change to the main room. See you.
And so that's some of the things that make me feel really uncomfortable, because it's just continuing a colonial legacy that we're trying to move away from. So I think it's for me, I understand why you're focused on population, but I'm really more interested in people reimagining systems and figuring out how to flow with all the different changes. Because our Earth is going to change. It
I
always
do
has.
go into that a lot in my paper. Would you be interested?
Sure. Yes. I'm a futurist. I definitely am interested.
Because I would really appreciate your feedback. I put a link in the chat to the
Okay.
preprint of my paper, but I know you're a busy lady, and I would, but
No.
it is.
Always.
I am extremely radical, so your opinion would be valuable. And I would also say that the USA is that Europe are leading the way with this degrowth movement. So the USA are very much either unaware or they're not really involved in it. So there's a lot going on that, and there is quite a lot of recognition for my work. So although it might sound um, arrogant, that's the word probably. I think it has got value.
Well, I think that also we've gone through this before, right? And there's only certain populations that they want to reduce. And so when we come to the US and you want to talk about that, that's when there's going to be harm towards me. Like right off the bat. All people of color are going to be the ones that they're going to want to talk about to reduce. They've already talked about us having too many kids. They never talk about white people having too many kids. In fact, the whole abortion issue is the fact that they're not having enough kids. And so that's why they want to stop abortions, because they want white families to have more kids. We're an extremely racist society, and you can never, ever, ever take that out of the conversation when it comes to the United States. And if you take it out of the conversation, that means that you're going to cause more harm to me, to my people. And that's why it gets a little like kind of hairy, because everyone reads that in what you're saying in different ways. You're going to take it as an excuse to exterminate who they've been wanting to exterminate, period. And so that's the issue that I have. I understand exactly what you're saying, and it sounds very scientific and logical. That's fine. But in the real world, in the society, the way it is right now, that's just going to cause problems. It's going to cause. They're already trying to bring lynching laws back. No, the United States is not the place to have this conversation at
No,
all.
actually, I should have known. You're in a very. It's very interesting that you're so extreme in the United States, because I have got friends who so understand and who are American, and yet you've got this huge polarization of understanding.
How you doing, Jeff?
Pretty good. Yeah, it's been an adventure.
Yes, a good one.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a lot. I'm working on Act 3, so it's all much like the creative process is not always easy, and it's really things end up coming together usually, but they never seem like they're going to, and then later they come together, and there's a lot of new ideas coming out, a lot of emotional interactions, and then it's like I don't know what it will be still, but it's like I enjoy that I'm working on this again more than I'm doing. It's sort of on the side a little bit, trying to facilitate these other versions of the project to kind of be realized, but then I'm also now really sort of looking at, I mean, and literally it's like 100 pages of just notes of well, kind of from the past years, this act was always like different places, different ideas, and it's all just notes now. And you're like, what do I do with this? It's 100 pages of lyrics. And then I have more rather than less. Like I'm not choosing them, I'm making more, which of course is good, but that it's like, yeah, it's just, I mean, and I think it's heavy. It's sort of important to me because it needs to really bring together everything I've been learning and do a pretty good job at it. And to also, I'm like spending more time with the technology, trying to get the instrumentation working actually at the level of someone recording music. Like the first stuff didn't matter so much. It wasn't so well recorded, but now I want it to be better. So
a lot. It sounds like a lot of work, a lot of big creative maelstrom. It sounds cool though.
yeah. Yeah, your interviews have been going really well. It seems like you've been doing a lot of them, right?
Yeah, I've got a little pipeline growing now.
It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it's just it's just validated that people want to get their voice out and talk about what they're working on, and they want the chance to tell the world and to spread awareness, which is awesome. So
Yeah.
So that's my now focus.
Yeah, that's a wonderful understanding. And I'm very curious. Do you, because I basically was looking at this and talking with Nancy a bit on the chat about that. I think that it's been hard to get, I guess, a balanced sex portfolio in the Caring is Cool meeting.
Right.
And we were thinking about, how there's right now, I think the attendees were like 10 out of 40 were male bodied, and then now there's 2 out of 12, which is fine. But that I'm more kind of wondering, is there something, what's going on? And I'm curious if your line of work, looking for interview subjects, if you have like what sort of the ratio looks like, or.
So I've been thinking about this for the interviews because it's been male heavy so far. And I thought I need to get more women on and more underrepresented people, women. So I'm mindful of it. But the men are coming first. They're like there at the door.
Yeah, they want to be heard. They want to come.
And I'm like, yeah, come on in. And then I thought, okay, it's a little bit skewed. But it seems to be I think my pipeline is going to even things out as we go. Yeah. And I also wonder whether women are a bit reticent about coming forward and sharing their voices. So I think I'm going to have to draw women out.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to jump in here because Rob probably knows what I'm going to say. So we have, and Jeff and I talked about it. I'm working with a nonprofit called Spirit of the Game, and it's also with the Impactful Women's Network. And so we're starting a new series, Impact America series, for the U.S., Canada, South America, and I think we have Caribbean and Latin America. But not everybody comes out either. But it's a women's network we want to focus on, and on. We start on August 8th talking about youth, and then we also have a women's empowerment portion, which I'm hosting those. And so I was just wondering, that's something in the future if you ever want to be a speaker. And you're talking about women. Mostly ours is women. And it's global. The thing is marketing it, which is marketing and branding and getting it out there. And I'm so blessed to have Rob as part of that as my national director for marketing communications. And we're getting a newsletter out. So everything's beginning here on the Americas. And I know climate and sustainability is one of the topics that people do want to hear about. You're going to have the people in it and people going, oh, well, it changes the weather and blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, we want people to be aware of what's going on. And if you're doing that, I would love to have you on one. Okay. She raised her hand, Rob, and said, yeah. Okay.
I would love to. Yeah, I would love to. If it spreads awareness.
It's not huge because it's such a beginning, but we may have, starting with, I was just telling with Jeff, like Caring is Cool is getting the name out there. And same thing with us here is getting our Spirit of the Game logo out and the Impactful Women's Network. So we're trying to have
let me interview you or some of you, a few of you. Come forward. Do an interview with me as well. We can do a two-way thing.
I'd rather you do us first, and then we can do.
Okay.
Same thing, because sometimes we have people in Africa, but they don't come out talking, right?
Yes.
And it's just the it's not the inability, it's just that they want to be quiet and listen.
Yes,
And
yes.
not to talk.
Yeah.
And then there's a lot more introverts in that. And that's what I'm an introvert coach. So yeah. So
An
that's
introvert coach.
yes.
You're an introvert coach. So
Am I what?
you're an introvert coach, did you say?
Yeah, that's my niche because I feel they need to have a voice and to feel the confidence. Because we all have that, you know, many of us do, is the imposter syndrome. You
Yes.
know, the belief system, mindset, you know, and all that. And so it's just
I'm an introvert, so I'm just interested to hear that there's an introvert coach.
I'm out there, but you know, I come on strong because I'm from New York City. So I need to lay back a little bit and listen a little more. I've been hearing that. But I would love to have you on, probably.
I would love to. Let's change the details somehow.
Absolutely. Could you put your information on the chat? Like your link? I didn't know if you had your LinkedIn up there or your email.
I'll put my email. It's probably the easiest thing to paste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Sounds great. Thank you so much, Karen. Thank you for bringing
You're
it
welcome. Thank you too.
Okay, Rob, all yours.
And so the introvert here who hasn't said a word so far.
The true introvert.
Yeah. And so, Karen, I'm a marketing professional by my career, but a musician by my soul.
Oh.
And, you know, that's kind of what brought me to this Caring is Cool piece,
Right.
is that in December, I released an album dealing specifically with issues around the sixth mass extinction and climate change. And, you know, in these Caring is Cool meetings, it's been interesting because it's expanded my network greatly. I started working with Nancy in the Spirit of the Game group as a result of this, but probably more specific to what you've been talking about today, Karen, is that I've also in the first session, Betsy Rosenberg was mentioned as one of the speakers, and she's involved with Green TV, and I've since become an editor for video editor for Green TV as well. And Green TV is a YouTube internet-based channel focused specifically on climate change issues. And so we have a couple of people who regularly do interviews in the form of shows, the Solutionaries and Business Earth, and in very much the same way that you're doing with the Circularists. And so, you know, I think there might be some synergies there in terms of you bringing your show to the Green TV network. And, we're not a massive network at this point with, millions of viewers, but, it looks like we're probably a little bit farther along the growth chain from where you are right now. And,
right.
There could be some opportunities there.
I'm hoping to interview Betsy, and Betsy's husband connected with me a few weeks ago after the first few episodes of The Circularist. So we've been in the DMs on LinkedIn, and I'm just working through my to-do list. And this weekend I was planning to shoot Betsy a direct message, to kind of get moving on that and get something in the diary. So I would love to. Yeah, I'd love to collaborate or whatever works.
She's back from spending a few weeks, actually, Jeff, in Portugal. She was out there for a while, but she's back here now, and we're cranking things up and trying to expand the network and the subscribers and sponsors and everything else at this point. So
amazing. So you are multi-faceted, multi-talented, technical, musical. Introvert.
All of the above. All of the above is as diverse and scattered as you know you were expressing. So
Oh, cool. I'm at home.
yeah,
Among friends.
and I'm on Cape Cod.
Okay.
Nice. I was very curious because I was just somehow not immediately connecting this when I first met you some months ago, but that this because for this project behind me, Meet Diners Unite, we're basically trying. The point is to make something. Actually, I was talking with Nancy about FOMO, this notion like you need to make these fun, you need to make this engagement be fun and engaging and cool. And like this is sort of what worked in the 60s and 70s. Everyone got behind some values, but it was because it was a party and people wanted to be there, not miss it. And that this idea of this project is like getting people to see stuff that's really cool, and that we're all in a way have different talents, some introverted, some extroverted, but different talents we can all provide to make really cool things. And I think that's what humans are sort of meant to do together, is to really do cool things. And somehow we've been isolated into cubicles doing different bits of work here and there, or serving whatever. But like actually we want to make cool things, and we all have different things to bring to the table. But then I was thinking of fashion design. It's like, oh well, this is actually part of it. It's like, how do I do the same show, but like, and we're working on some masks and some moving puppets and just these vague ideas about how to do something a bit bigger. The last thing we did was a puppet show. We basically went to a local festival, and I mean, it ended up not being probably marketed as best it could. It was only marketed for little kids. It was really for everybody. And so in a sense, this was a bit of a flaw of the communication chain into the organization. But that, because once it's puppets, it's for children. I was like, well, it's for children, but anyone too, because it's the themes, right? But that then like making the puppets bigger or better, or having like masks and costumes and making it sort of look larger and larger and larger, to me is what really captures this energy. And at least this is what I've seen. Like, people like will stop and stare at something that they don't expect, right? Yes. And we just actually had I mean, I don't know where this particular group came from, but do you know the Gigantes? I know them originally from Guatemala, and it's an old cultural tradition of they make these ginormous puppets 3 times the size of a human, with essentially very expressive faces, but they're not moving; they're just fixed. But they have people wearing these massive, like they're 3 times as tall as me, and your head is like looking out of the crotch area, and they're swinging around and dancing in the street, and everyone just wants to watch them, and they're so cool. And when I was in Guatemala for seeing them, they're just out at a random corner bar dancing with everybody else.
Wasn't there one walking around the globe?
Yep.
A couple of years ago.
I don't know.
Was it that?
Why not? But I mean, point is, this gets attention, and then so it was like, oh, fashion design actually getting people wearing cool stuff. That's kind of like ahead of the game. That like, oh, what is this like? And I think what I'd come up with might be too much behind the game, but that this idea of a synergy with you to like, oh, what could we imagine that we can sort of easily and cheaply craft to sort of augment some attention getting context, right? To sort of bring attention to the movement.
For sure.
Jana.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I've been jumping between rooms. I just wanted to check you have a lively conversation, and I see you have one. But so I come just to announce that I will stop the record room soon. And yeah, I'm sorry, but it sounds you had a lot of inspiring discussions and have fun. And see you in a bit.
Okay.
Hello, welcome back. I think I jumped and listened to just a very bit of each of your conversations, and I think you were not bored and not without words, but each of you were engaged in various topics. So it was nice to see that happening. And yeah, I would like to invite the panelists just to shortly mention a few topics that you discussed, and whether you think something came out of this brainstorming event or synergy building event. Let's call it like that. Maybe we can go in the order. Maryam, Ingrid, Karen. It's just the order I see you on my screen. So
May I just ask Sinit to talk about it, because most of the time we heard about her amazing project, and also Kanine is doing a brilliant work. So I'm in no place to present their amazing work.
Please do as you prefer, Sinit, if you like to shortly mention.
Yeah, I will try to do shortly. Short. Now, basically, what we are trying to do is to build a financial impact ecosystem where every stakeholder wins, including the nature as a stakeholder. So we are trying to build something where we enhance production system, business model, where you co-create abundance between nature and people. So the goal set the solution for us. So that means that, for example, if we have, it could be a farmer working regenerative, rebuilding the ecosystem, we then doing the monitoring of the environmental impacts, analyze it, and really working with putting the externality value, unique certificate where the customers then can follow the impact through real time and really get engaged in the story of rebuilding the ecosystem and creating healthier food and stuff like that. And then we were talking about how to use the art also part of that journey as part, and the community development as well as that. And then I just will give it on to Ken. How do you pronounce your name? Ken. Kanine. Kanine, who was really working, speaking well about the AI and the challenging around that. I don't know if you want to say something, or shall I just?
Yes, thank you. Yeah, like I said, I'm thank you. It's like 94 degrees in New York City, so I don't think me being on cameras is useful. But yeah, so I was explaining before that I'm a very close friend of Ingrid, so very excited to meet all of you, and do work regarding AI right now. I have a background in education for several years, K through 12, and then was a diversity trainer for various institutions, and then now moving into the space of ethical and inclusive AI, and how AI could be used for good, and helping to create an event, working with a company that is a Black and brown run startup to create inclusive and ethical AI tools. And so one of our big tools right now is DEI GPT. So it is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week, 365 chatbot for all of your diversity needs and questions. You can ask it all times of the day and night about, this ever increasing, world of diversity, equity, and inclusion, different genders, different sexualities, different ethnicities, races, religions, ages, how to treat them, how to address them, how to ensure that your workplace and your friendships are as safe and non-toxic as possible. And so that's the tool that we're working on. It's built by the expertise of diversity professionals such as myself. So it is a closed data set for those who understand the world of AI, meaning it's not open to the internet. And so that it greatly reduces the chances of hallucinations or misinformation, because we're literally programming it with the information that we want it to generate out to people who are seeking, New York, the best information. And so it's different than OpenAI, ChatGPT, or Bard, or Facebook's new, or excuse me, Meta's new competitor to ChatGPT, because all of those are also pulling from the internet, which has already become a cesspool of replicating the harms of discrimination and marginalization for the past 40 years, or the past 400 years on the internet. And so ours is an antidote to that and is a counter narrative to that, because ours is closed. We also generate visual AI images, and so ours are more authentic and accurate based on skin tone, hair texture, and facial features. And so our goal, as I said before, is to create the utopia that has not been created up until this point on the internet, or has not been created in humanity and society. And we're going to do that one AI interaction at a time via our intentionally inclusive and ethical AI tools. And I put a link to an article that I just summarized and highlighted about ethical AI that was written in the Atlantic. And so that's the link that I just shared with you all now on my LinkedIn. So I post quite frequently about, you know, the intersection of diversity and AI and the future of work, and how to do so in the most compassionate, empathetic, and mindful way possible.
Thank you very much. That sounds really exciting. If you could share
Yay!
the link to the website here on the chat as well, that would be fantastic.
I did.
Oh, great.
Like 4 minutes ago. It's my LinkedIn. Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And what happened
Thank you.
in the last room? Actually, before moving on, I think when I joined, there were a few more like exchange of ideas, and I think that was exciting. I didn't hear yet about your project, Janine, which is exciting. But what I heard in the conversation with Maryam and Sinat was also a flow of mentioning other projects that may relate between this approaches of trying to create circular or regenerative, or let's simply put them ecosystem responsible or recreating processes together. And it was mentioned from different token systems, digital currencies, to other tools and projects we knew about, and so there has been some exchange about different projects, which I think is interesting to see, and I think that is what it is for. And I'm sure the project you mentioned, Maryam, in that is happening in Ghana might profit from Sinat's project, and vice versa, and maybe from some of the other projects. So that is interesting to see. And last but not least, this was the first breakout room, right? The next one, Ingrid, what happened in yours? When I joined, I heard Barbara Williams and you talking quite intensely. I haven't heard Barbara Kaplos talking so much, but I'm sure you exchanged ideas also with her. So I'm curious to get your short summary of what happened. Ingrid.
Yes, I had the pleasure of having 2 Barbaras in my, so that was nice and easy. We spoke mostly about Barbara Williams' paper, or her theory, a part of the theory about population, and kind of thinking about how do we kind of advocate for families or women very specifically to choose to like not have as many kids or no kids at all. I'm not sure about if you should speak on that, but I think the conversation was just thinking about how that might be perceived in different parts of the world, in the global South, in the United States, and how that might be a really great scientific approach. But when we're thinking about our societies, who we think should stop having kids, that becomes a little muddy, right? And you know, how we're going to control the population. For me, I'm very hyper sensitive to racism, and I know that would be very present in that conversation. So it wouldn't be just a cut and clear, oh yeah, sure, let's just, you know, save the planet and have less children. It would definitely be a very targeted kind of attack. And so that we were kind of discussing some of those complexities to the theory that Barbara was offering. Do you guys want to add anything?
just want to say thank you for listening to me and giving me feedback.
Sure. Yeah, no, it was great. I look forward to reading the paper, actually.
Thank
Thanks a lot.
you. And what happened in the third record room, Karen?
Yeah, we had a lovely exchange. We sort of fell into each other's projects very effortlessly, and I'm still thinking about that. So basically, what happened was we went around and spoke about our worlds, and then Nancy invited me to speak at her project, which you're probably better to describe, Nancy, than I am, because I can't remember half of what you said, but I do remember the key things. So you know, different women. Anyway, I agreed to speak.
It's called the Impactful Women's Network.
Right.
And we're starting here in the Americas in August. And so I was looking for speakers because we're going to start a program that's every Tuesday at a specific time. So it wouldn't be all jumbled up for people to find where we are and stuff. And so looking for specific speakers to talk on different groups. And I think everybody that's here could be part of the Spirit of the Game and the Impactful Women's Network, because we're building a lot of different networks. And one of them is an art creative type network. I'm not in charge of that. And Jana should be talking to, Manuela, and a couple of you here should be talking to her. It hasn't started yet, so she's in the structural stages, like a lot of our networks and stuff. But for me, it's always like build those foundations, talk to the people, because that all takes time before you get them to talk. That's it, because I can be on for another half an hour. So I'll give it back to you, Karen. Thank you. And
thank you.
thank you for the speakers. You're wonderful.
Oh. And then Jeff and I had an exchange. We talked about the Act 3 and the dinosaur project. Oh, my battery's running low. And how, you know, with my fashion design background, we could collaborate, and I could do some costume design and think about some fashion, you know, to get buy-in and to get some kind of FOMO or some trend happening. So all the possibilities with that. And then spoke with Rob about green TV, and Rob suggested, you know, maybe there would be some collaboration there. And I said, well, actually, I've been speaking to Betsy and hope to interview her. So all of that, all of those dots joined up. So it was quite magical, really, for a breakout room of 4. Lots of green shoots sprouted in that little session there, which is the magic of like minds coming together, I think.
Thank you very much, everyone. This is great to hear, and I'm glad it was a small meeting, but I think it was very fruitful, and I'm happy I could witness some new connections made between you all, and hope to see you in the next edition. This is an event that we hold monthly, once per month. We do not have a specific date or time, because we would adapt to the invited speakers' time zone, hopefully a little bit. And also, I wanted to mention to you, and especially those that have been panelists, but also to our regular participants, whether someone would be interested to sharing these events in the future. I've been doing this now 4 times, and it's exciting to do, but I think it would be fantastic to also share the moderation. And if you like the event and you would feel like you have an idea whom to invite and you would like to moderate that, we really are looking forward to hearing from you, and maybe have a changing chair every 1, 2, or 3 editions, so we can bring the different colors, the different ideas into this series, which I think is important. So you have been hearing much too much my voice, and oh, Karen, is this you would like to do that?
I'm so sorry, it wasn't. Then I should. Okay, I would like to do it.
No pressure.
Oh dear. I was
Okay.
actually. Yeah, I would love to. But what I put my hand up for, truthfully, was to just ask. I struggle to always pick up all the links in the chat. Is there any way that
I
that
will
could...
copy them. They will be in the Safe material. They will be there. I will copy them and share them with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
For
you.
chat as well, Karen. Did you know that?
Sorry?
You know those 3 buttons at the bottom of the chat? You can save it to your PC.
Oh, can I? Oh, thank you.
Our tech wizard, Barbara. Thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining, and have a good day or evening.